Hello everyone, this is Robert from Book of Mormon Editions, where we discuss printings, publications, and various editions of the Book of Mormon. I mentioned often that church history and printing of the Book of Mormon go hand in hand, and I'd like to discuss a brief part of church history that many are often unaware of all of the tangents. So after Joseph Smith was martyred in 1844, we know that most of the saints followed Brigham Young's leadership, where they eventually migrated to the American Wild West of Utah. Sidney Rigdon was not happy about this and moved to Pennsylvania, where he attempted to lead various congregations there. We also know that many stayed in Nauvoo area, and local congregations eventually formed together when Joseph's son, Joseph III, reorganized the church in the 1860s. However, there's another contender for leadership that had an interesting claim. Enter the story of James Strang. So this is pronounced Strang, not Strange, and not to be confused with the Marvel character of similar sounding names. So James Strang was a convert to the church in February of 1844 and assigned to grow the church in Wisconsin. However, only a few months later, the prophet Joseph Smith was martyred. While Brigham Young and Sidney Rigdon were debating over who would lead the church, James Strang produced a letter claiming to be from Joseph and listing Strang to be chosen by Joseph to be the next leader. However, Strang was relatively new to the church, and Brigham Young disregarded him and didn't seem to make time to deal with Strang while organizing the saints' move westward. This created an opportunity for Strang, and several staying behind seemed to recognize Strang as the next in leadership and started to follow him. This did include Lucy Mack Smith and Joseph's brother William, and several other significant early members of the church. It was said that his organization was more than 12,000 strong. Eventually, Strang led many of his group to Beaver Island, Michigan, where they even called themselves the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, just like the Salt Lake group, and I probably think that was intentional. They even called themselves Mormons, and often the Strangites would call themselves Strangites, but without offense, and the group seemed to thrive, as Strang was even a state representative of Michigan. However, there was a lot of turnover within membership due to Strang's new doctrines. This included conversations regarding polygamy, views on leadership being almost kingly, and a claim that Strang found metal plates that he translated, proving his prophetic abilities. Among Strang's accomplishments was a publication of a book called The Law of the Lord, where Strang claimed it to be a revelation of the writings of the brass plates mentioned in the Book of Mormon. This edition was published in 1851 with some reprints afterwards. However, Strang's life was cut short when a group of dissidents killed him in 1856. Followers in Michigan were forced to move back to Wisconsin, and many of them eventually moved over to the RLDS church following his death. However, there were few followers that stayed faithful, and the denomination has continued on today. However, there are some questions around what the denomination looks like now, as there are several congregations that I don't think act in agreement with one another. One website hasn't been updated and still uses an outdated Flash plugin on its website. So I contacted the most active congregation in Wisconsin that claims membership of only a few hundred. I had a great conversation with a gentleman by the name of Trevor, who listed himself as an elder in the congregation. Out of the various questions, some interesting knowledge arises. First, that the group never created their own publication of the Book of Mormon, probably because of the shorter lifespan of Strang and not having an opportunity of printing the book for missionary use. So ultimately, they have a branch of the Restoration that doesn't have its own printing of the Book of Mormon. They currently use the Salt Lake versions and don't seem to mind other various publications. It seems that they will look at whatever is handy, including LDS Scriptures app for the smartphones. The congregation in Wisconsin has even a general Salt Lake text PDF available on its website. They recognize that the early printings, like the 1830 and original Joseph editions of the Book of Mormon, are of value when studying, but it seems that they don't get caught up with the drama of not having specific ownership of a volume, which in a way is refreshing, as you have a restoration group that exists outside of Salt Lake that recognizes Salt Lake, Book of Mormon printings and tools without throwing rocks from the outside. It also emphasizes that the message of the Book of Mormon is more important than the source of its printing, and I'm glad to be reminded of that. So, without a specific printing of the Book of Mormon, you now know a little bit more about church history, James Strang, and the continuation of the organization that he helped create. Thanks everyone for watching. Please feel free to subscribe and tell others about the series. If you have a special or unique edition of the Book of Mormon that you'd like reviewed here, please contact me at bomeditions@gmail.com. Best wishes, everyone.